Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the inaugural Driver's Seat webinar series where we are empowering the City of Houston through conversations that drive engagement forward. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ray Belton. I am your host, and I am so excited to begin this series with you. But I'm more excited about the people who help bring this to pass, and that is you and the team that is with me today. So before we dive in, I want to introduce the great people who are along with me here to present this driver's seat to you today. I want to begin with our technical producer, Miss Satin Moffitt. Can you say hello to everyone?
Hello, happy Friday Eve, everybody. Welcome to the driver's seat. I am Satin Moffitt. I hope you enjoy your session today.
Thank you, Satin. Also, I have a wonderful co-host with me today, Miss Oninye Iwulu.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the driver's seat. We are so excited to have you all in this space today, and I am excited to be here with you all. Back to you, Ray.
Thank you, Oninye. We also have a moderator for today, Miss Consuela Frazier.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the driver's seat. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Consuela. And last but not least, I want to introduce my fearless leader, the one and only Miss Denise White.
Hello, everyone. How are you this morning? I see so many familiar names, and I know some others are like, I'm coming, I'm coming. I see the names going up. But we are just so excited about this new phase of Involve and Evolve with the driver's seat webinar. And I don't know if she could make it or not, or has had a chance to log on. Two people, my fearless leaders, CLO, Chief Learning Officer Dr. Crystal Bessix. We want to definitely thank her and the original executive champion, the greatest cheerleader we have for INE, Director Jane Cheek. So are either of you on and want to just say hello quickly, ladies?
I'm looking, I don't see them, but I'm sure they'll get on if they get a chance.
Yes, yes. All right. I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank Thank you so much. And once again, I want to thank everyone who's joined us so far. This is a wonderful opportunity to put you in the driver's seat. But before we do that, before we dive into the actual meat of today's webinar, I want to do what we call an OTOD, which is the Office of Talent and Organizational Development. It's what we call a connection before content. It's an opportunity for us to share a little bit, connect with one another before we really dive in. And so this morning, I want to ask you all a question. I'll give you some responses momentarily, but I want to make sure you understand the question, which is, when you are navigating change, which of these driving styles best describes you? I'll show you those styles in just a second. But I'm gonna repeat the question again. When you are navigating change, anybody going through a little change right now? When you're navigating change, which of these driving styles best describes you? And now here are the responses that you can choose from, and you'll respond in the chat, or you can use your reactions, whichever one you're most comfortable with. Uh, you can start using those reactions, or you can put it in the chat. If you are a cautious driver, that is someone who's checking the mirrors, reviewing the map, easing into it slowly, give a thumbs up. You can respond with a thumbs up. If you're a driver who's kind of in cruise control, I just adjust smoothly. I try to stay steady no matter what. If that's you, you will give a smiley face. Oh, you may be a willing passenger. I'm going to let someone else drive it first, but when it really matters, you can count on me. I'll take the wheel. Or some people out there may be thrill seekers who just hit the gas, accelerate into change like they're on the Autobahn. And so I see some heart emojis. I see some smiley faces. Yes, we have some different type of drivers here today. I can't keep up, y'all. Y'all doing it so fast. But yes, yes. Let me get a few more responses. There you go.
It looks like we have some cautious drivers, several cautious drivers, a thrill seeker, some willing passengers. All right, keep them coming. More thrill seekers.
We have some cruise control.
A lot of cautious drivers. Yeah. Oh, yes, the cruise control. Yes, I see that.
All right. I love the diversity, and the different ways we can approach this. This is one of the things that make us so great, that we have a little bit of everything. So thank you all for sharing. All right. Anybody else wanna share what kind of driver you are before we really dive in?
More cruise control and caution.
I see you, Roderick. Juan, Shanique, I see you all. All right. All right. It's wonderful to see us growing together, learning together. And I see those thumbs up. I see all of that. And now I'm even more excited to see how you're going to manifest as a driver in this organization. I if they gave me enough time, I'll be here with you all day, but unfortunately, I don't have all day. So I want to thank you once again for sharing, and now I want to introduce our co-host, Miss Oninye Iwulu, who's going to tell you about our objective for today and a little bit more.
Thank you so much for that, Ray. Thank you to everyone on this webinar for your participation in that CBC. But now let's go ahead and talk about our outcome or our objective for today. Satin, take us to the next. Thank you. So our outcome, we are going to discover how to apply engagement drivers to spark positive change. Now, I want you to keep in mind these words, discover and apply, right? So we have quite a few changes going on in the city of Houston, and now more than ever, it is important to maintain an openness and a curiosity about the environment that we're currently in. Now, earlier, we asked you to think about the kind of driver you are when facing change, and that CBC we just engaged in. So, some of us like to ease into it slowly, some stay steady and calm, others jump into the fast lane without hesitation. And a lot of us, some of us anyway, we switch lanes, right? We maneuver depending on the situation. The point is, there is no one single right way to drive through change, but there is something powerful about making the choice to get behind the wheel. And that is why today's key driver is so important. As you see, we are focusing on leadership and managing change. And this applies to every one of us. Now, if you don't see yourself as a leader, I want you to hang with me for just a second because leadership isn't just about your title. It's about your influence. It's about how you respond when things shift, how you help others navigate uncertainty, and how you show up when the road ahead isn't totally clear. So now that we're describing leadership, let's talk about that. Leadership, we're describing it as the ability to guide and influence people to work toward a shared purpose by inspiring and motivating and empowering them to achieve success. It's a process that fosters employee growth and engagement while accomplishing work objectives and delivering business results. We're also describing managing change as the transparent communication of what? The vision for change, the reason behind change, and expected outcomes. It includes making every effort to consider the impact on people while managing shifts in structures, processes, and practices. So, today, as we talk about leadership and managing change, remember this: you don't always have to have all the answers, and you don't have to lead from the front. What matters is that you stay engaged, you keep learning, and you support others along the way. And with that, I'll throw it back to our host, Mr. Ray Belton, to introduce our guest speaker for today.
Thank you so much, Onige. You did a wonderful job of framing out today's driver of leadership and managing change. And now it is my distinct pleasure and privilege to introduce our guest speaker for today. She is Denise Weaver. She's the Global Strategic Partner at Owens Corning, where she brings a dynamic blend of technical expertise and people-centered leadership to the building materials industry with a STEM degree from Florida A&M University and a master's from Villanova. Denise has built an impressive career leading functions in HR, quality, operations, and people development across the food, beverage, chemical, and manufacturing sectors. She's passionate about connecting people to process, turning strategy into action, and delivering results that last. Known for her belief that people should be measured by their strengths, Denise lives by the idea that things work out best for those who make the best of how things work out. I already see the hands clapping. I already see the excitement building. But help me give a warm welcome to Denise Weaver.
I feel like I should stand up and like run in or something like, ah, I appreciate that introduction. I appreciate more that it says I'm the global strategic partner, not one of them. I am the. I like that. I love it. So thank you so much, number one, for that welcome. But the absolutely thank you for having me, City of Houston. I just really I wish I was physically there in Houston, but that's okay. I am where I am, and I'm enjoying the opportunity to share in this conversation with you today. I'm going to I'm going to answer the question that you posed to the group earlier. I'm similar to some of the responses I saw in the chat. It depends on which stage of the change, which type of change. At any point in time, I'm any one of those four. So I'm driving all over the highway, I guess, including possibly on the Autobahn. So yeah, it really does, depend on what exactly is happening and what we're trying to gain. And like I said, what part of the change we're in, like that really will determine what happens and what I'm doing. So if you can give me a quick thumbs up, which this will be the last time that I will probably be able to see you, tell me if you can see my screen and if you're seeing it in presentation mode. All right, awesome. I see some thumbs up and some hands. You just never know. We did a tech check, but let's just be honest, things happen all the time once you're live. So
Yes.
um, I like the way it was framed up about what managing change are and being a leader inside a change, because when we think about steering through change, it doesn't matter what your title is. You're going to be part of a change at some point in your career, right? At some point in your life, at any aspect, whether you're leading it or you're impacted by it, experiencing it, you're going to be part of a change. How you position yourself inside of that change will make the difference in the process, right? And so this conversation today is an opportunity for us to just approach change in a very structured and strategic manner. Why we're here, I think you had another good frame up in the intro to the session, but what we're going to do is discuss change management awareness in an effort to support the continued engagement and empowerment of your teams. This is an opportunity for us to engage as leaders and engage as impacted parties, because in order to effectively manage change, we have to take that perspective in mind. We can't just look at it as exclusively the process that I'm driving and people must follow. We have to recognize that the impacted group has to engage and has to understand. That's how we'll be able to empower our full team, energize our full team, and really get the full power of everyone and manage the change well. So you're going to hear me say that you have a role to have change agility. You're going to hear me say that a few times. And change agility plus that preparedness that we're going to talk to a few of those tools and a few of those approaches will help you manage change well and engage and involve the majority of your workforce. Okay. So one part of preparedness is planning how you approach change. If you drive change effectively and engage in both the technical part of change as well as the people and mindset and cultural part of change, you have to plan. You have to make a plan for that. So as you consider these things that are on the screen to help you approach change in a structured manner, think about how you could leverage them inside of your work, inside of your leadership, inside of your space and your environment today. So the first thing I have on the screen is a change process. I'm picturing just one type of change process. This is Cotter's, which happens to be the one that I will also revisit inside of the materials that we cover today. But there are plenty of change management models. I mean, too many for me to name, if I'm honest. But just approaching change with a process in mind. That's a great step in having a structured approach and being strategic in how you manage change. Thinking about the change curve. We talked about the different driving styles and that there's different portions of the change, but the truth is there are different responses at any given time. So someone and it's not linear, even though it appears like a curve, like it doesn't flow that way. So at any point in time, you can have people who are in shock and denial, while you have others that are already in integration, and you can bounce back and forth between these different stages. So, really considering this curve and how you can manage the transitions that occur on this curve is another part of planning how you approach and building a structured and strategic approach to managing change. Putting a plan together to overcome resistance to change. It sounds good that, hey, I got this change, go implement it. That's just not the way it works when you're talking about people. Maybe on equipment and machines, you make a change, the equipment adjusts, life is good. But when you have people and emotions connected, there's going to be a pattern, right? Whether that's a pattern of resistance or a pattern of acceptance is kind of left to the way that you manage the group and communicate the vision of that change and then making it stick. All of these are aspects to help you be prepared in change management. We're going to talk a little bit about each one of these as we get further into the material. So, what are we calling change? I would love to hear, and I mean, you can put it in the chat because I understand I can't ask you to come off mute, unfortunately. Well, actually, Ray, I can call you out, right? Like you're the host. So, this is one definition of change, but what do you call change? What is change?
Um, I think for me, change is a disruption of my comfort.
Okay. You feel how negative that was. Your position change is a disruption of my comfort. But that's important for me to know that if I even use that word, it could be triggering. I say change, and you're already thinking disruption of my comfort. Whereas I'm looking at it more matter of fact. Oh, it's just a modification. It's just an alteration. It's just making the environment or your norm different, right? Like
What
maybe I have to adjust to the differing definitions of change. And I'd love to hear from others via the chat. Just how do you define change? And is that a positive word, a negative word, a neutral word? I would say it's neither positive or negative in the context of this conversation. This is all about the matter of fact. It is happening. It is natural. Change is constant. So that's one definition that I want us to keep in front of us. Change is constant. It's a modification. It's an alteration. It is just making a shift in the world around you. I like this little fish image because although I don't know because it's not a video, I have it in my mind that this last fish had been hanging out by himself for like a week or two. And then finally he was like, oh, I got to go, right? The water's getting hot over here. Let me just take this leap and just go, right? The others went earlier on, but I have that in mind. And sometimes that happens on our teams or, in our work group where there's early adopters and then there are more reluctant and some just they come by default because the water in the bowl got poured out. But I like that image because it just depicts different moments and times, whether you made a big leap or a gradual shift. Sometimes you don't have the option not to change. The transition is going to happen. Your world is going to shift. And I already mentioned that change has more than one aspect. There's both a and a technical portion of the change and a people portion. When you think about the technical portion, that is all about the structure, the process, even sometimes the risk assessments, the ways that you go about managing the actual task inside of the change. When you think about the people processes, it is all about the mindset. It is how we get the adjustment, the buy in, and the sustainability through our people by way of engaging them inside of a change process. Today, we're going to touch a little bit on both parts. How do we actually dig into the mindsets and the people and the behaviors, as well as some of that technical process portion? You need to focus on both in order for change to actually be effective. You can't just engage the people without having a plan and without having a process. So it'll be important to get comfortable on both sides of change management, technical and even just defining what is our technical management of change process, and then the people. Don't neglect to dig deeper inside of adjusting and preparing the mindset for the changes that are coming. I keep hearing there's some big changes going on inside of this team. So I hope that you're adjusting right now on both sides, the process side and the people side. And hopefully, this conversation today will be helpful. So, why do you need to change anyways? Like, what is it that would push you to disrupt someone's comfort, right? If that's what it is, why do we alter? Why do we make these shifts? And this is just a quick list. I'm sure if I asked you to put the definition of change inside of the chat, and now I'm asking you to follow up, why? Why do organizations need to change? People are going to have different things from this list and different things from each other. At the end of the day, it's about relevance and survival, especially when you're talking about organizations. We have to meet performance, we have to meet expectations, objectives, deliver to our customers, adapt to new technology for the changing world around us, or even just for our organizational needs. So there are a million and one reasons why we have to let go of something and bring on something new, a new tool, a new set of people, new process, whatever it is. We have to remain, again, relevant, survive, and competitive. And that is the reason that change is constant, particularly inside of organizations. Whatever the factors are that are prompting the changes in your organization, really think of a way that you can approach it from a futuristic perspective versus just holding on to what you already have or where you're comfortable. You have to make changes in order to progress and to develop beyond the spot that you are right now. However, I said that with so much positive energy, and yet 70% of all organizational change initiatives fail. Why would I share this? Why would I say that? Well, it's because often the failures are because there is a partial addressing of the full aspect of what change is. So either we're only addressing the process without connecting it to people, we're only addressing the people, we don't have a full process, the vision isn't clear, people don't understand what exactly they're supposed to do, and it's not sustainable. We make quick and sweeping changes without looking at the full infrastructure and the full impact. So often these changes that occur fail, and they fail from for reasons that could have been prepared for. Remember, I said be change agile, but also be very prepared. One thing that is frequently missing inside of these failures is a true change management process. Now, remember, I mentioned, and this, by the way, is John Cotter's 8 step change management process. I mentioned this is just one. There are plenty on the market and in use in organizations that are very effective. This is one I happen to be familiar with and I happen to engage with regularly. But at any point in time, we could be talking about insert different method, and still the bottom line is to have an approach through something that is process based to manage change. When you think about what change management is, I think it was mentioned in the kickoff slides, that structured and intentional approach designed to prepare, equip, and support individuals to the process of organizational change. It's meant to support the holistic team. So it's not just a leadership tool exclusively. It is meant for the leader to kick this off, but you have to engage all members inside of this process. So it needs to be fully implemented to the impacted group and those that are leading the change. It can't just be one sided. Um, you have to think about it as a roadmap as well. So you plot the course. This is the direction that we're going in. And with this model in particular, it's very important that you really hit all steps, that you're clear on what the outcome should be at each step before you move on to the next step. Um, if you think about prioritizing effectiveness, one of the most effective pieces inside of the change management process is that there is clear leadership through this process and effective communication alongside the commitment from the team. You have to address the business need for the change while still addressing those interpersonal and personal impacts that are going to occur in the change. Like all of these things have to happen in order to reduce the chaos and increase the likelihood of success versus falling into that 70% of organizational failures, organizational change failures. So, what are some of the things that you're doing at each step of this 8 step process? So, this is create a sense of urgency. We talked about identifying critical opportunities or risks, but this is also where you can use data and good examples, be very relevant that help to accentuate the need for this transformation. When you're building a guiding coalition, in addition to bringing in this strong team, so it's not just one person pushing everything down, in addition to bringing that in, this is where you start to consider how cross functional can I be? How far and wide can I reach with this team? How can I set up our objectives such that I don't have tunnel vision, right? Can I build this team and our objectives to push this change further across the organization? When you're forming the strategic vision, this is the opportunity to communicate in a way that people get it, right? That people really connect with it and can start to buy in or ask questions. It's intended to align the team members that are on that coalition, but also to align the broader organizational team on this one common goal. When you're enlisting this volunteer army, this is for you to have a larger group of people, so different voices from the coalition, right? That small team that's going to drive this change. But now I'm expanding. So now I have volunteers who are going to speak to the change inside of their small subsets of the organization or their peers or talk about it at lunch, right? But this is the opportunity for people who are going to be passionate about this initiative and are really going to generate other enthusiasm and help to alleviate some of the stress that's happening. So you have your formal team, but then you have those other people who are contributing to driving the change forward. Enabling action. So identifying and removing obstacles is the biggest part that's happening inside of this. This is all about removing barriers. And because these barriers are sometimes truly structural barriers, right? Barriers. It's the way that you work, the things that you have to adjust. But then there's also things that we might not think about initially, outdated processes or a lack of a defined process. Everyone wants autonomy, and now you're starting to bring another level of, to the structure that didn't exist before. There's cultural things that fall into removing these barriers in order to enable action. Creating short term wins is a reminder to definitely celebrate success, but also that because that success can build the momentum. And so it's also a way to show evidence that the change is working, right? The work that we're doing is having a positive impact. So definitely recognize and communicate your quick wins, the small victories, and continue to build on them, right? The positive impact will encourage others to embrace the change. Sustain acceleration. So don't lose sight in celebrating those short term wins. Don't lose sight of the bigger picture. You have to really build on those early wins early. So once I have a win, it needs to stay steady. I can't let too much time linger from the short term wins to the bigger wins that I have to have throughout this change management. This is also where you may have to start scaling or horizontally deploying the initiative to other teams. If it started small or if it started in one group or one function or one department, this is the step where you really start to say, where else do I need to go and how do I get there? What's my plan? And putting things together to continue this change in other places. And then institute. This is reinforcing the changes by linking them to other areas in your organization that they are, successful and connected to. This is also where you have to focus in on how people are behaving. Are they reverting to the old way or are they staying inside of this new process? And so it's very important in this sustain and institute change that you're checking in and checking on and following up with what's happening, with the broader population of employees. I love the Carter model, but just to tell you that, again, there are multiple options and multiple models because there are some shortcomings to the model that I just talked about. Although I like the structure and I like the focus and how you can go through and connect to the broader organization, it assumes that everything is happening in a linear fashion. But remember, when I mentioned the transition curve earlier, I said it's not linear. And at times in our change, we have to be a little bit more flexible. As a result, this is why people have created a hybrid model, right, to leverage multiple change management models. The purpose, again, is that they're still following a structured approach to managing change. But depending on the type of change or the type of organization that you're inside of, you may have a need for more flexibility than what that Cotter model offers. It really does expect you to follow it 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, and not jump around between the steps that are there. It is also very leadership heavy. That means that you have to consistently engage that core leader group. It doesn't often transition outside of that space. It needs a lot of input from that group, but it can be effective if you get the right buy-in organizationally as you follow that process. So bear that in mind that there's no perfect method, but selecting a method and a process that fits your organizational needs is very important. It's also important as leaders and as you're leading through change, with change being so constant and it's always going to happen. But it's also important that you understand how your people are reacting to change. That is going to guide you in how you should be. Again, I said change agile as a leader and how you should engage people based on where they are inside of this curve. So you have to really possibly change your approach because your role as a leader or as an influencer is to guide your people through the different phases of this curve that they may be experiencing. You have to check in different ways depending on where people are, whether they're in the resistance phase or the acceptance phase. You have to check in and adjust, but it's going to be important that no matter where they are on this curve, that you provide access for them to let you know how they're feeling and for them to be transparent about their discomfort with the change that's occurring. You can reassure them, provide them additional information, but just ensure that you are providing empathy and that you're providing a platform for them to engage in a healthy way, regardless of where they are on the curve. It also may change your progression plan. So you may have made a plan for how you were going to make this change, but based on your organizational readiness or the of your people, you may have to adjust your timeline. You may have to bring in a different set of resources just to guide your people through this curve so that ultimately you can integrate the change that you're trying to deliver. There are strategies to support each portion of that curve. So if you're leading a team and you have a lot of individuals who are in the shock portion of that transition curve, right? Like, oh my God, what's happening? Why is this happening? I just can't believe it. If they're still in that shock phase, it's going to be important that when you communicate clearly and early, you provide some clear explanations of the change, make it very rational at this point, and really try to dig in on how they're reacting to this rational information and to what's happening and the clarity of what's happening. Acknowledge their uncertainty. So validating that their feelings are natural and normal and let them know that it's okay, right? Don't push them out, pick them off the island, but let them know that it's okay that they feel this way. And then just again, give them some way to process. So creating that space for processing, giving them the opportunities to have dialogue, share more information to continue to address this anxiety that they may be feeling. When they're in denial, being patient, but still being persistent. Often when we're leading change, we're not in a position where we can adjust and where we can be flexible and say, okay, we're not going to do it. We're going to do it. How we do it in a way that engages our people is up to us, but that it is going to happen is probably the non-negotiable. So be patient and persistent. So definitely continue to reinforce the inevitability of the change. Focus on the future. Again, this is highlighting what the positive outcome and the big win and the direction that we're moving in. And then continue to offer those support and additional resources if you can. So whether it's tools, information, training, connecting to different groups who maybe have completed it. When they move into frustration, and if you notice on the curve, frustration was, I think, represented as anger and blame and fear and bargaining. I just, for the sake of slide layout, I called it frustration. But inside of frustration, there is healthy conflict, and so embrace it. Allow for some of that pushback in a constructive dialogue so that we can address concerns and potentially remove obstacles and roadblocks that we may not have seen had we not engaged with someone who may have had an opposing perspective. Focus on the solutions though. So even inside of that healthy conflict, let's be forward focused, forward facing, and look for collaborating with all of the employees to find the solution, right? Change the plan if you need to, but it's still in a way that is solution oriented. And then emphasize the transparency, provide regular updates on like the progress of the change and address concerns head on. I'm going to talk through just one more spot because I know I have to wrap up this portion of the conversation, and it's depression, because sometimes people land in the depression stage and get left behind. If you as a leader aren't willing to continue to engage with every person, no matter where they are on the scale, people will either self-select out, or unfortunately, they can be prematurely judged as not adopting a change when in fact they're just at a different stage inside of the scale, inside of the curve. But unfortunately, it seems that if it's not addressed, that frustration, and it leads into the depression, can linger here and then people just fall outside, right? And so it's important as a leader that when you offer the support and encouragement that you stay engaged. Not only continue to acknowledge their feelings, but provide some level of support system. Sometimes that's EAP, employee assistance programs, like a formal support system. Other times it's peer supported. But it's very important that you just stay engaged, focusing on the wins, even though you're acknowledging how they feel, continue to highlight these positive experiences inside of the change and the potential positive outcomes that are still to come. And then reiterating the importance of every single individual. So making sure that people recognize they're still valued and that they're still essential for the successful outcome, but just to the team. I've had that experience where I've had team members fall, through this first half and not come out of it. And as you're engaging them and you're just trying to understand why, I've learned more often than not, they just didn't feel heard. They didn't feel valued, or they were afraid that they were no longer going to be able to have a positive impact based on the changes that we were making. So I'm going to stop talking through this. I know this material will be provided after the meeting, but I'm just going to stop here, not just because I have a few more slides that I want to make sure that I get through and get into our conversation. Clearly, I could talk about this all day. So change agility. I said I was going to touch on this a few more times inside of our time together. When we think about being agile, and you can apply agility, whether it's being learning agile, leadership agile, but when you talk about being change agile, you have to be able to change often and quickly. That is not an option often for leaders who have changes being placed on them to push out to their broader team. You have to do it often and quickly, but you can't lose its effectiveness. In most efforts, the basic goal is the same: to make the change and to get the environment stable after the change has been implemented. And so, in order to do that, to be agile, you have to take on multiple leadership and communication styles. I encourage you to continue inside the space of learning different ways to lead, and also just change management. You could spend weeks just learning about change management processes. The more that you know, the more agile you can be. And so I encourage you to take on an agile mindset and a process based approach to change management. So, with that, that ends the formal portion, the presentation portion of my time. I hope I didn't go too far over. I apologize. I was talking and I said, I think I may have missed my cue. So, but I know that Ray, that there's some questions and a conversation that we're about to have. So I will stop sharing if need be. Here we go. And hand it back over to you.
Well, thank you so much. That was wonderful. You know, I got a million questions, and I also want to acknowledge that I was trying to keep you on your toes with that response. You did so well.
Oh, negative. What?
I just, sometimes it's difficult and sometimes people are afraid to say things like that. So I just wanted to kind of put it out there and you addressed that so well. And because you were presenting, you couldn't see the chat, but a lot of people in the chat came back with some very positive responses. And I want to thank everybody for doing that. In fact, even though I have some questions, I really want to just give you guys an opportunity. I went into the Q&A and I noticed that for some reason it didn't let you put your questions in. So while she was presenting, I went back in there and I shut it off, turned it back on, and now it works in case you had a question. But for the sake of time, if you do have a question, please raise your hand and I will notice your hand and I'll give you the ability to turn your microphone on if you have a question out there. And while you guys are thinking about that, I will ask one question, and mine is always about the people. And so it's what practical advice would you give to employees on this meeting today who may not be in that formal place of authority or leadership, but still want to lead from where they are during times of change? What kind of advice would you give them?
So this is the nice part about change and change management when it's happening. There is always a position to play. And sometimes it's just speaking up and saying, hey, what can I do to support? And so, one, you can formally speak up and raise your hand as initiatives come, forward or change is happening to say, I want to support this. And I really want to be part of whether it's part of the team, part of the communication, or part of the drive for this to be successful and ask how. The other way is you can just do it, so you can influence those that are around you. You don't have to formally be on the team. You can recognize that you feel good about the change. That person doesn't. So you can start to explore and you can just support the change by being, again, vocal about ways of working inside of the change. I think one of the biggest ways that you can support during times of change, whether you're a leader or not, is supporting the change. So asking questions about it, and even where you don't agree, you don't necessarily need to disparage the efforts that are happening. So be part of the positive aspect of change. And I think that is helpful for any individual to consider, like, how am I resistant to this change? And how is that resistance now showing up and influencing others? So maybe if I take a step back and understand why I'm having this resistance and address that, I'm being supportive of other people who are experiencing and feeling different emotions. I hope that was helpful because I feel like I said a lot, but hopefully that was helpful.
You guys let us know. Give us a
Was
thumbs
that
up.
helpful?
Was that
Somebody tell
helpful?
me. All
All right,
right, I got some clap. Whew, no
I
thumbs
see
down.
some
Okay.
people saying it's helpful, and then Miss Betty, I see your hand, so I'm gonna try to activate your mic here. Go ahead, Miss Betty. You should be able to turn your mic on now.
Yes, I do. I just want to say this was phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you, thank you, thank you. This was so helpful, extremely beneficial. Confirmation, just amazing. You answered so many questions that I had in my head that I was like, well, would I be on track? Would I be off track? Am I on point? Am I thinking in the right direction?
Hmm.
Am I processing this whole thing? You have been a phenomenal blessing for me today
Thank
and
you so
giving
much.
me the comfort to move forward with everything that I kind of really wanted to do, but kind of,
Hmm.
you still, when something's new.
Yeah.
But thank you for the confirmation. Thank you for the knowledge sharing and just the positive view that you put on change. Uh, I can't wait to just really deliver to my team and really use a lot of what you gave us today as tools for me now
Awesome.
to be able to address, because we just had a lot of reorg and a lot of changes, and we have people in that curve and it's kind of all over the place,
Hmm.
and you painted such a beautiful picture for me on what I need to do to execute and to support and help this change and transition a lot smoother. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I thank my OT team for having you on here. You have been a tremendous help. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the feedback and that you connected with the material in a way that was positive and in a way that you can take action on it. So thank you for sharing that, number one. I appreciate that. And then I know I said it in the beginning. Thank you for having me. This has been a great opportunity just for me to engage with a group. So I appreciate you for inviting me. And I don't know if you're taking any additional questions or if I need to just zip it because you have
What?
other things in your agenda.
Let me make sure, Consuela. I just want to double check. Was there any other questions in the Q&A?
No, Ray, the only question was about the recording, and so I've already answered that. That will be available in Microsoft Teams.
All right. Thank you so much, Consuela. We appreciate it. And Miss Weaver,
Yes.
I just want to ditto everything that Miss Gilbert just said, and we just thank you so much. We know how busy you are as the the
the the one and
global,
only.
the one and only. We appreciate it so much. It's up to if you want to stay on with us for a few more minutes. It's up to you, given your time. But I want to invite our co-host back in, Miss Oninye Iwulu, to kind of tie a bow on some things.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Miss Weaver. That was amazing. Let's see some thumbs up in the chat if you learned something new today. Let's flood the chat with thumbs up. I see hearts as well. Awesome. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, we want to thank you, Miss Weaver, again for joining us here today. Now, participants, we hope you feel empowered to get into the driver's seat, however that may look for you during these times of change and uncertainty. As you can see, navigating change effectively depends heavily on your mindset. We hope that you were not only able to discover today, but to begin to determine ways to apply what you've learned, right? And we heard some of that with Miss Betty. So that may look like determining and or implementing a change process. Ms. Weaver mentioned Cotter's 8-step change model, but you all may be familiar with the ADKAR change model or the William Bridges transition model, right? As you engage in specific change initiatives, both personally, within your teams and department. Now, additionally, we would like to share a resource to help you assess your levels of enthusiasm for change. So, in the chat, you're going to find the Change Fatigue Assessment tool. Feel free to reflect and complete this checklist for yourself. And please share it with others because it provides strategies to help mitigate fatigue. All right. Well, that's it for me today. We thank you. I thank you specifically for your engagement. And I hope you appreciated those key takeaways. Back to you, Ray.
Thank you so much, Oninye. You did a wonderful job of wrapping up for us, tying some things, sharing our takeaways. I just want to just follow up with that and just really, really, really encourage you to use this tool and to also reach out to us. Uh, There is a plethora. Listen to me. Listen to that big word. Plethora of tools that we have. And if it's a tool that we don't have, we'll work with you to create a way for you to be the change agent that you want to be. We are here to support you 100%. So I just want to double down on that and say go on there and use this tool, use this PowerPoint, use everything that you can to help create the change you want to see in this organization. I see our fearless leader on. You have some parting words for us?
All I want to do is have everybody on, thank them again, but can you please thank our incredible team? Ray and Oyinye and Consuela and our technical producer, Satin Moffat. We have an amazing team. If you thought I&E was doing something in the past, we are just cranking up. So we can't do this without, they are phenomenal. So I want to make sure I recognize what an amazing job they did. And then my friend Denise, it's Denise and Denise, you guys get that? But but thank you,
And
thank you,
both from
thank you.
FAMU.
That's it. I was going to not do that, but since you're the guest and you did, yes, we're from the same institution of higher learning. And so, but thank you so much. You guys, really, she is a global strategic partner, and um, she did this for us. Okay. She's in the middle of an event right now and stopped and has to go back to an event. And she's been on the road all week. So thank you, girl. Strike and strike again. All right. That's all I have, right?
Well, thank you for your influence in this world. You may not have global in your title, but you still have global influence, and we're so grateful to be working with you and bringing about the support that our team members need throughout the city of Houston to help drive transformation in this great city of ours. Before we wrap up today, is a couple of more things that I want to touch on. One, I had already saw it in the chat. Someone said, I can't wait for episode number 2. Well, guess what? It's coming. Our next episode is going to be Tools for the Road. We're going to be touching on the key driver of resources and workload. Y'all know how that is. Do I have the resources? And is this too much workload? We're going to be talking about that. And our guest next time will be Director Lisa Kent, who's over our IT here in the city of Houston. She's going to come in and share some wonderful insights with you all. So be looking out for information about how you can join us again in our next episode. And then last but not least, one thing that we truly believe in is that your voice matters. And we want to hear your voice. We want to make sure that when you come into this webinar, you are getting what you need the way that you need it. And so we want to ask you to complete our evaluation for today before you leave out. The QR code is there for you to be able to scan and complete this evaluation so that we can make the changes that we need. One thing that our guests shared with us is that along the way, part of this change is using the data, right, to help guide the change. And so your words, your feedback will become the data that we use to make the driver's seat even better. So I want to encourage you to do that. We are so thankful for you doing that. And one more time, I just want to say you are so important. If nobody has told you this, you are important. You are absolutely essential to this city. And I want to thank you for your service. And I want to encourage you as we wrap up today to keep stepping forward, sit in that driver's seat, and drive transformation one change at a time. Have a wonderful day, everybody.